Welcome to episode 224 of Fresh Air at 5. This week I had a meeting at the Ministry of Education on Monday, interviewed with Mike Brilla for the Inspired Teacher podcast, listened to some podcasts, and I'm bringing those to you here in this episode. Thanks for listening. Hope you're encouraged. Keep on going. Happy summer.
I'm AJ Bianco from Podcast PD, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows in the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Bryon Carpenter, coming to you every week from Abbotsford, which is about 45 minutes east of Vancouver, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to get some fresh air by walking about my neighborhood, which is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people, the Simath First Nation and Mathwe First Nation. I consume podcast content while I walk, then reflect on this content in an unedited video, which I post on my X, formerly known as Twitter, channel every day. This podcast is the collection of the audio taken from those daily selfie videos over the course of a week, Monday to Friday. So let's jump into my listening and learning this past week. Hey PLN, it's July 7, 2025. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing well. The sun has come up and I'm out for my morning walk, enjoying my neighborhood, getting some fresh air and doing some learning. This morning, I did my learning from listening to episode 300 of the STEM Everyday podcast with Chris Woods. Chris, I want to say first off, congratulations on 300 episodes. That is fantastic. You know, you and I have lost touch over the past couple of years, as my focus of podcast listening has changed, but you're still going, and that's awesome. That is fantastic. 300 episodes. Congratulations to you, Chris. All right, on this episode of episode 300, you talked to Dr. Leslie Grass about technology and privacy in our education system and how her experience at the National Security Agency has informed her about the need for privacy with technology and how we supply devices as school systems to our students with the caveat that we can check on whatever they're doing and whether that's a good thing or not. And so understanding student privacy and what privacy has to do is so important as we look at resources and the things that we are doing. I'm part of a task force right now with the Ministry of Education as we are looking at learning resources, and privacy is a part of that. If we're looking at books and things, not so much. But if we're looking at online resources, that matters a lot. And the privacy impact assessments that we need to do with the software that we use, so important. I appreciate hearing you and Leslie talk about technology and about the need for advancement and understanding and recruiting females into math and science and STEM, and how important that is. It's important for us to recruit all of our students, but how not that we give special attention to our female students, but we encourage all of our students to grow in their strengths. So very important. If a student has an interest and an inkling to be a scientist, we should encourage that so much. All right, thanks, Chris. Have a fabulous day. Thank you, Dr. Leslie Grass. Bye. The last thing for July 7, 2025, Suzanne Daly in a bonus episode for Teach Happier this summer from a blog that she wrote, talks about the vulnerable times that happen as we can get into out of our regular routine of work, maybe as teachers as we hit July and hit the summer. And what do we do and how do we process this change of pace? What happens? What other things come up and show up for us as these changes in our routine happen. She talks about how, sometimes summer is a joyous time, but other times, many of us, as we hit summer, we have this intensity that we're going to go do a bunch of things, and then all of a sudden, we just run out of energy, and we just have to relax. That's part of the whole point about summer, is the relaxing and getting some rest for ourselves. But how do you process when you have these vulnerable times? Vulnerable times being, things happen in our families and our community that we can't control. How do you go about doing and surviving these things? As we go through things, she talks about having a battle plan, having a breakdown of how we can solve the problems and serve ourselves to be better equipped to get through these times. She says at the end, you know what? And knowing that you're going to get through this eventually. So very important. Thank you, Suzanne, for sharing your thoughts. I appreciate it very much. Looking forward to today, as I have some things happening. I've got a meeting with the Ministry of Education. I've got a podcast I'm going to record on and doing some things for myself. And then it is holiday time. My wife is off for the next week, and we are going to go do a bunch of activities, daily activities and things like that. All right. Take care. Have a fabulous day. Bye. Hey, PLN, July 8, 2025. Good morning to you. I hope you're doing well. I'm up this morning before the sunrise happens, and so it's early this morning. So I'm excited about the opportunity before us today. My wife is off on vacation, so we get to have time away from work at the same time. So we're gonna have we're having a staycation this year. Our opportunity to go to a resort in the mountains shut down because there was a forest fire a couple of years ago, and they have not recovered yet from that. The facility hasn't been burned up in the Alpine, but the base camp and getting to the base camp has been a problem where we would catch a ride up. Okay, anyhow, I don't need to go into all that. Yes, it's been a good beginning of summer for myself. I'm having some fun. Have been fishing, doing some things like that. And now I get to spend time with my wife this week, and we're going to head into Vancouver and do some staycation things that we've wanted to do for a while, but haven't gotten to. All right. This morning as I'm walking, I listened to the Empowered Principal podcast with Angela Kelly. And Angela Kelly her podcast is part of the Education Podcast Network, so shout out to the EPN. Woo-hoo! And you should go take a listen to what she has to say. I am not a principal, but the stuff that I learn about leadership as I listen to principal podcasts is applicable to my space as a leader at the middle level, like as a teacher and teacher leader in my teachers associations, as well as in my classroom and in my school. So super important that we are aware of how we behave as teacher leaders. We've all got space where we lead. That's part of being a teacher. And this episode, as she talks about the purpose of conflict on episode 262 on the Empowered Principal podcast, Angela talks to us about how and why we have conflict. And, I really appreciate your thoughts, Angela, that we as teachers have a scope that is wider than that of single families and parents, the parents of our children in our class that want to fiercely protect, and how that works out or not. Take a listen to this. If you are a school leader, you should hear this, because conflict has a place in our world, in our spaces, in our classrooms. We don't throw it in there, but when it happens, we have an opportunity to speak into it. Thanks, Angela. We'll talk to you later. Have a happy day. The last thing for July 8, 2025, this morning, as I'm wrapping up here, the sun has now risen. It's beautiful, shining on my face. And I listened to episode 128 of the Educational Duct Tape podcast with my man, Jake Miller. And Jake brings us an episode that he had recently, about a month ago, he says, with another podcast. He was the guest on a podcast called The Conversation with Rachel and Christina. And their podcast, their interview with him, focuses on how technology, specifically artificial intelligence, can be leveraged in a teacher's classroom to free them up to do the things that AI can't do, and that is the human interaction with our students. How can we use and utilize AI to assist us, to be alongside technology that can, free us up? So take a listen to what they have to say. It's fantastic. Yes, I've been thinking about these things myself. I have need to step in and start implementing some more AI in my online courses by providing a Chemistry 12 coach to help students with learning acids and bases and redox and equilibrium and kinetics and things like that are challenging. And there's only so much of me, but there's the capacity for AI to support and then me to step in when students really, really need it. So that's just an example in my space of how I could utilize this. As we go through our day here, I encourage you to listen to something new for yourself. So the Conversations Are New to Me podcast, and I will subscribe and take a listen to what they have to say as I go through here this summer. All right, thanks, Rachel and Christina. Thanks, Jake. As always, peace. Bye. Hey, PLN, happy Friday. It is Friday, July 11, 2025. I'm out. It's 4:30 in the morning right now. Woke up, couldn't sleep because I've been going to bed early as I just feel like I can go to bed early. I don't have tasks and things to do in the evening and just enjoy the sleeping. So up this morning early, and I listened to episode 193 of the EdTech Throwdown with Eric and Nick as they bring us EdTech to check out. And they're talking about 4 different things, mainly in this episode. And there's a whole lot of EdTech that you can take a look at and consider as you move through your summer and ponder starting up your school year. So as we're going through the summer, I think about school quite a bit, actually, and how I'm going to do some things and not just necessarily sitting down and putting pen to paper and writing it all down, but it's just in my mind. And this is a great episode for that because Eric and Nick bring us a treasure trove, as usual, of lots of different things from the class hook at the beginning of class and what they run into as they walk into class and what do they engage with. Before that, they talked about the classroom environment. What's it look like? What posters are on the wall? What information are they taking in with their eyes as they walk into your classroom? I have been not very good at this, but there are things that I do in my classroom that make it mine. And so I have to kind of consider and maybe put up some classroom rules and different things like that I could use Canva for or Adobe Express to make some posters to communicate a message. All right, gamification in your classroom space as a way to keep students engaged in the classroom and with groups and things like that. I like that idea. I got to start doing some of that stuff because I don't do it. I kind of do it, but not really. So this is a good opportunity for me to take a look at some of these websites and do some of that stuff. And finally, what do you got for your class website where students can get information, see things, and all that kind of stuff? I'm a Microsoft district guy, and because of that, we have our SharePoint and other bits in there that I need to learn how to leverage better. Using Microsoft Teams for class, and so our classroom environment is there, but there's a web page on the front. I should tinker with that. That's something I should do. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for the tips, ideas, tricks, and all that stuff. Hope you're doing well. I'm enjoying my summer, and we're going boating today, so I'm looking forward to that. Take care. Bye. One more thing for July 11, 2025. Last week, Mike Brilla on the Inspired Teacher Podcast, episode 263, brings us an episode entitled Be Like Dan-ish. And he's talking about some reminiscing about some American history that happened during the Battle of Gettysburg. And I'm not an American history guy because I live in Canada, But it's interesting to hear Mike reflect on his observance of the behavior of General Dan Sickles, as he was a leader and took against orders. He took troops away from where they were up to a peach orchard, and it was a 40% casualty rate that happened as a result of that move. But it did kind of help the situation. Now, I don't understand all the details. I don't get it, but it's okay. The whole point here is that we need, as leaders, need to be daring and courageous and err on the side of daring as opposed to caution. Because, like you say, Mike, great leaders take risks and calculated risks. And, we need to do that same kind of thing with our classrooms, because the only place that we can have influence, one of the places that we have influence is in our classroom space. And if we're being cautious and safe all the time, are we pushing our students? Are we really growing? Are we pushing ourselves? Are we doing things that we are uncomfortable with? And, do we jump into things that are super dangerous? No. Do we jump into things that are, take some calculation and risk assessment and things like that? We should. There are things we can do online, but there are also certain things we should not do online. Student privacy is super important. We shouldn't risk that. We should risk having them challenge and think about things that are outside of their normal scope of thinking and do stuff like that. Okay, fantastic. Appreciate it, Mike. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye. The last thing for July 11, 2025, I listened to episode 327 of the Easy Ed Tech podcast with Monica Burns, as she brings us an episode about student reviewing content and ways to support students reviewing content and providing them tools that they can make their own review structures in their space for reviewing vocabulary and other things. She talks about a vocabulary journal and using a tool like Book Creator or PowerPoint or Google Slides to create a vocabulary journal, because vocabulary is important. It's the way we communicate, because then we understand a definition of a word, all those things. Talking also about, videos and having students make review videos for themselves as they are working through a concept, explain it so they can go back and watch it. There's that. There's flashcards. There's ways of, there's lots of stuff. And so, take a listen for yourself to this episode. Thank you, Monica, for your thoughts. And as we go through the summer, approaching the school year with some tools in hand so that we can be at the ready already and not having to figure it out as we go through the school year is important. That's why summer learning is so important. All right, that's all for this Friday. Hope you're having a good day. And I'm heading out to the lake with my wife and daughter, and we're going to go boating today for a bit and enjoy the sunshine. All right, happy Friday. Okay, bye.
I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's like a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find some other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific episode podcast titles and episode numbers in the show notes, which are only a click or swipe away for your learning convenience. I've also started to put together a Spotify playlist of each of the episodes so that you can also take a listen to those specifically, and the link to that playlist is in the show notes. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoyed this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. You can also follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Bryon Car, BRYONCAR, or at Fresh Air at 5. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can be found on the Educational Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day. Get some fresh air before the day is out and take care of yourself, because you are worth it.